What's up guys, welcome to Random Select episode 2 part 1 here with the YouTube breakdown of Seth. So Seth is our newest character here in Street Fighter V of Season 5, and boy do I think Seth is just such a sick character. I think Seth just has so many options. He has a dive kick, heavy Tatsu that's +2. Any V-skill that you really want is good. V-skill 1, V-skill 2 both have their purpose. One is a really big corner carry one, which is V-skill 2. V-skill 1 is kind of like a V-skill that negates a lot of characters neutral. If you feel like your opponent is over pressing in neutral, there's a high chance that if you press a V-skill 1 and confirm into it, you're just gonna suck them in, get in my belly, and just take their special ability. It's really kind of hard to play around the V-skill 1, which is why I prefer it, and you'll see in part 2 why I pretty much just only use V-skill 1. So say someone's using their own fireball, it's a good way to negate that fireball, and it's a good way to make people want to jump. People are gonna get annoyed by your V-skill 1, so they're gonna want to jump. So now that we kind of talked about what Seth has, why don't we get into the video and just break down what Seth can really do.
Now, I know that you're used to me telling you a play style to kind of work with, right? With Gil, we kind of said you should just only do hit and run playstyle, right? But I feel that's because Gil doesn't really have any other ways to really play the game. He's kind of like hindered to only really play that playstyle to excel in like most of his matchups that he's playing against. But with Seth I feel like is a very versatile character. Seth can basically do whatever Seth wants to do, and it kind of can change depending on the matchup, right? Say you're playing against like a Shoto character, right? What you could do to kind of mess with their fireballs is you could V-skill like this and beat their fireball that way, and you kind of mess with them and make them want to jump, right? Because when people are scared of the V-skill, they're gonna want to jump. So let's give you a good example right here. Boom, boom, boom. We're gonna jump, boom, boom, and then what are we gonna do? We're gonna focus on anti-airing with Seth's very, very good uppercut. The main uppercut with Seth is the medium punch uppercut. But notice that if I do the DP too early, I'm not really gonna get the right anti-air. So if you really want to get the DP and the super timing right here, you gotta have to do the DP a little deeper. But that's just one instance of how you can kind of mess with each character depending on the matchup. Another way that you can negate fireballs too is you can do stuff like this. You can be doing the medium kick, what is called, I believe, Cruel Disaster. This is -4, and it's very, very good. Not a lot of characters can punish this. I don't really think any character can punish this, honestly. So this is a bit safer than doing heavy kick. Heavy kick is +2, but it's not as safe because it has more startup. You can clearly see that there's more startup to the heavy kick Tatsu, but the medium kick Tatsu is a bit faster and it's easier to get around fireballs. That's one way that you can deal with fireballs as well, if you don't want to commit to something like a V-skill every time. But just know you have those two options, and if you want to use those two options, you're going to have to want to uppercut a lot. Seth does have pretty decent neutral. Her walk speed is not bad. It's about the same as Ryu. But the difference between Seth and Ryu's walk speed is that Seth has a very, very good low forward. Very, very good low forward, very, very far low forward. Whereas Ryu, when he does low forward in a fireball at the tip range, he doesn't really get a combo. The crouch mini kick in the fireball doesn't combo most of the time. But the good benefit of Seth is that the low forward into light kick Tatsu will always combo, and then you can dash forward, get some Oki. But notice I can't double dash, right? We kind of have to like mix it up, right? We got to do stuff like this. Heavy punch into heavy kick Tatsu, I think, is a pretty good string right there to beat the wake up jab, and you're also +2 in case they block it. You can probably do stuff like this too. That will beat the wake up jab as well, and then you get Oki too, which is great. So not a lot of characters get hard knockdown when they're knocking their opponent down. So say I do this, notice how Seth can always like choose quick get up or back get up. So back get up is performed by hitting all the kicks, which we talked about before. Quick get up is all the punches. But notice how when I suck them in with tandem, you have no choice but to get up the way that I want you to. You have to get up at the exact same timing every time, which is very, very strong. Very, very strong. You're always +2, so that means they can't, or +3, so they can't wake up with a jab. See how Seth is trying to wake up with a jab? So that's Seth's V-skill once I suck them in. So you're going to have to pay attention to what V-skill you get from each opponent, and that will kind of help you decide on whether you want to use V-skill 1 or V-skill 2. If you kind of have a V-skill that you don't really prefer, you can kind of just change to V-skill 2 and make sure you get like pressure. You get like the corner carry. So I would say V skill 1 is more of the I'm gonna mess with your neutral, I'm gonna make you not throw fireballs and stuff. But V skill 2 is more of the hey, I don't need your V skill, I'm not really worried about your neutral, I'm gonna get these hits in and I'm gonna do a ton of burst damage. So let's see if a combo that I can think of. So notice how much corner carry we're getting with this V skill. This is why this V skill is really good when you're playing against characters with a not that great ability that you absorb with your V skill 1. So one thing I want to note with this V skill 2 real quick is that it is very good corner carry, but if you do EX fireball, well, it's very hard to describe, but it's basically this fireball input. The input name is very difficult for me to enunciate or pronounce. So what you want to do to keep your Oki is you want to just do the hit. You just want to do the raw hit like that and then go up and get your Oki. But if the opponent's near the corner, you can get extra damage by doing your EX fireball move. And just keep them pressured like this. Notice you get way more damage and you can just keep your pressure. I'm not timing my my meaties very well. But notice how if I do it mid-screen, I don't get Oki. It's almost the same situation as we had with the V skill 1, right? Or not the V skill 1, but when we did the crouch medium kick in a like it cost. So keep that in mind. You don't really want to use this mid-screen unless they're pretty close to the corner, like maybe like a fourth or a third of the way from the corner. You can see like I'm right here, and I'm still able to get Oki because this just sends the opponent so far. So I would say, yeah, keep your Oki. If you know you're definitely gonna be mid-screen, I would say just do this, dash, dash, boom, get your meaty. Work on your meaties, don't mistime your meaties like me. But if you feel like you're like a third away from the screen, why don't you spin that extra bar and just get pressure and time your meaties. But yeah. So that pretty much sums up the V skill 1 and V skill 2. You kind of want to use V skill 1 depending on if you get a good V skill from the opponent, or say they have a very annoying neutral say they have a very annoying fireball game and or neutral game. You can just kind of use V skill 1 and throw it out. And then they kind of have to respect that. They have to be careful of that, and they're probably going to have to start jumping or throw out crush counters to deal with that. I'll leave that to you to lab it out, but like say some characters that have a high crush counter, you could probably buffer the crouch strong, or you can just whiff punish with this move, the down forward fierce. This is basically Seth's slide, but it is good at whiff punishing far crush counter moves. You can also use the EX fireball move to whiff punish as well. So now that we've talked about how you can kind of approach different matchups with Seth and how you can kind of use Seth's V skill depending on the opponent, let's talk about Seth's rushdown game. Seth's rushdown game is very strong, and I would kind of categorize Seth as a rushdown character. Seth has a lot of good ways to kind of rush your opponent down, especially when Seth is up close to you. You can kind of do like fake strings like this to stay plus. You can be really plus if you do these kind of things, but just note that your opponent can check you. These are some decent things to do because you are +2. But besides that, Seth has a very good dive kick game, meaning that you can mix up your jumps with your dive kicks. Let's say you do a delayed medium. Delayed medium's pretty good. Delayed light kick might be better because it's a little safer. And if they mess up their anti-air, you're going to get a pretty good conversion off of that. You can combo into this depending on if your opponent gets hit crouching, or you can kind of hit them standing, but only more up close. It's easier to get the combo up close. But notice how if I get the dive kick going right here, I get a full combo because they're crouching. Your best conversion basically is doing if you hit them standing, or if you hit them crouching, you want to do the stand medium punch. But you have to be pretty close to that. So if you are a little far, you are +6 right here. So you might just want to go into crouch strong, which is 650. That. But pay attention to the range, because if you're too far, you're probably not going to get too much. But on top of that kind of dive kick pressure, if you dive kick and they block it, it's a good chance to jump forward. Because a lot of opponents it's hard for them to kind of check you, especially if they're just blocking your crouching. If they block it standing, you can be negative. But if they press the wrong button, if they press like a crouch jab, let's record Seth to jab, which is typically like the best answer after you block the dive kick, because if you block the dive kick standing, you are negative. So you're +3 or you're -3. So they can check you like that. So pay attention to that. But if there are certain ranges that if you do it far away, they can't really do the jab. So you're free to kind of jump again or do another dive kick. See that? So that's a pretty good range to be doing the dive kick. They can't really jab you. They're gonna have to do like a medium punch to stop you, to kind of knock you out of the air. But just keep that in mind. If your opponents don't know that, you can really mix up your dive kick with like a jump cross up, and you're gonna kind of disorientate your opponent. They're gonna have to know that you like going for the cross up, and they'll have to go for like a cross cut DP, which is pretty difficult. So the risk that you're taking based on the ease of your inputs, depending on or compared to how hard your opponent has to focus to stop this kind of pressure, makes Seth a very strong character. You get to kind of just rush them down, make them deal with your pressure, and kind of adapt to what you're doing instead of having to focus. Instead of you having to focus on a lot while you're pressuring them, you kind of have free range to do what you want and mix it up depending on what you're giving off to your opponent and how your opponent is responding. One more thing to note is that Seth has a very, very good corner game. Very, very good corner game, because when Seth dashes, let me turn this wake up jab off. But when Seth dashes, Seth is only -1. This is incredibly strong, guys. If you don't understand why, it's because your opponent basically has to commit to wake up jab just to stop your dash. So you can do a lot of things to kind of mess with your opponent here. You can walk up, you can do like a crouch strong, maybe confirm into like a crouch medium kick. Let's see if we can do that. Actually, you might want to be doing this. Yeah, so you might want to do the forward medium punch, which is only -2 on block. It's not bad. So if they wake up with a jab, you're gonna get a lot of mileage right here. You can also combo the forward medium punch into crouch jab into the fireball input. Sorry, you can do I messed up the combo, but you see what I mean. You have a lot of damage that you can get right here, and this really scares your opponent because they have to guess a lot. You can also steal turns like this. You can do like a walk up meaty stand fierce into what is it, heavy kick tatsu, which is +2. Your opponent's gonna have to check you with like a reversal jab. Like they say they block your stand heavy punch, they're gonna have to commit to trying to punish the fierce. And if they kind of get deer in the headlights, you can get away with free pressure like this. Just be mindful that if you're playing against an opponent that knows how to deal with this, maybe just keep it safe with the walk up forward medium punch. But just know this is just super strong because your opponent has so much to guess. You can do a dive kick, and I believe if they do a wake up jab, that you can even punish them with the dive kick here. And even if they're not punishing it, guys, like this is one of those things where you're basically starting your dive kick pressure again, right? And that was +1, right? So even though Seth blocked it standing, you were still +1. You can still kind of apply different kind of pressure. Maybe do like a crouch strong, crouch medium kick. It doesn't have to be the tightest of pressure because a lot of your opponents don't have much that they can do to stop your +1 dive kick going into your crouch medium, which I believe is 7. So yeah, just you have free range to do a lot of pressure here, guys, especially with the dash up throw. But I would say don't overextend with this too much, especially if you want to keep the life lead. If you have such a good life lead, it's best to work on, especially if you're a newer player, not to build into the habit of overextending and trying to stun people when they're really close to stun, because that kind of breeds bad habits. You're going to run into a lot of buttons, or you're going to run into a lot of wake up DPs, and a lot of these things can kind of shift the momentum a bit. I want you to try and ease into playing like that and not always do it. Save it for when you really need it, but don't do it too much. Try and depend on a more solid playstyle where you don't have to overextend too much to get the stun. Sometimes just don't even stun them. Like let them get scared and come to you. You have so many options and when you have a life lead, like your opponent, it's up to your opponent to take the initiative. You can kind of control your momentum better defensively than overextending by taking a risk offensively. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed episode 2, part 1 of Random Select. Seth is such a sick character. I learned a lot with this character, and I'm actually considering picking Seth up. Seth is super fun, super interesting, and I feel like Seth is going to be a top 5 character. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please hit that sub button and the notification bell to see when our next video goes live. Our next video will be of Seth in our Twitch VOD. Guys, I have a good feeling. See you then.